I think we're on. Hi, welcome into the stream. We're back at you once again. We did a live stream yesterday. That was a Monday where we were recapping all the games and all the goals from match day 29 in the Bundesliga. And do you know what? It seemed to go down quite well. So I thought, sorry, we thought, didn't we? We thought we'll try it again with the Champions League in mind. So this is Tuesday, and we're in the UK. Later on this evening, Dortmund are going to be at home in the Westfalenstadion, playing in front of their yellow wall, trying to overturn a 4-goal deficit to Barcelona. And that's a Barcelona team with a rather intimidating front trio of Lewandowski, who, of course, is ex-Dortmund. And not that it's personal, but I recall he's now scored 29 times in his professional career against a club that arguably gave him his break in the big leagues. Yeah, so Lewandowski, the spearhead of that Barcelona attack, he scored 29 goals against Dortmund. That was after scoring a brace in the previous leg. That was the quarter-final leg at Barcelona, but not in the Camp Nou. Who am I trying to kid? I'm trying to be a hipster. Not in the new camp, no, because that's under renovation, because Barcelona are not one to be outdone by Real Madrid, playing in there. It looks like an air fryer. Who else out there agrees with me that the new Bernabeu, which is on a bucket list, I have to admit, it looks like an air fryer, like a massive air fryer from the future. Anyway, Barcelona are not want to be outdone, so they're upgrading the Camp Nou. So they're playing at the Stadio Olimpica? Yeah, Estadio Olimpica. Yeah, it was built for the 1992 Summer Olympic Games. Yeah. Oof. Who out there's been to Barcelona? Let me know if you've been to Barcelona. Let us know in the comments. In fact, let me know any of your thoughts in the comments, because this, my friends, is a safe space. Yeah, we're here to talk about football, Champions League, Dortmund, Barcelona. However, we love nothing more than going down a rabbit hole of nostalgia, preferably football, but we can also talk about other events from the past that make us happy or maybe make us sad, because men cry too. Should get that on a hoodie. Went for the yellow today, Dortmund yellow, in support, because they're going to need it. And I thought we'd start off by taking a quick look at the probable lineups. So that means, there we go. Right. So let's have a look. So here we go. So there's like I said, that front three of Barcelona. Even I only already mentioned Lewandowski, but he's at the spear of it. You've got Lamine Yamal on the right, still only 17, still in school. Wow. And then on the left, you got Rafinha, ex-dirty Leeds. I'm not sure if they're really dirty. I think they should drop that moniker now. I mean, they're doing incredibly well, right? In the Championship in the UK, they are joint top with Burnley. Anyway, Rafinha, yeah. So Yamal right, Rafinha left, Lewandowski at the top. No Dani Olmo, ex-RB Leipzig, because he's out with an abductor injury. I think he's been out since March. So the rest of this Barcelona team is, yes, I know Gonzo and Ozil. Did he play with you? Yeah, pretty sure you played in that. Yeah, you did. Yeah. Was Szczesny in goal? He liked to flag at half time. Didn't do him any harm, did it? Going on to play for Juventus. He's come back out of retirement as well, because he's covering for Ter Stegen. That's not bad, is it? 37-year-old, still playing at the elite level of football, Champions League, quarter-final. Wow, yeah. Szczesny in goal. That back four of Koundé, Kabasi, he's only 18, I recall. Ineteo Martinez, and then Martin on the right. You got Frankie de Jong and Pedri as part of a double pivot, because they're going 4-2-3-1. And again, there'd be Lopez sitting behind Yamal, Rafinha, and then Lewandowski up front. And then what you're really here for, right, is to listen to the Dortmund team. So this is a Dortmund side that, in the Champions League so far this season, have scored 28 times. They have conceded 18 goals. Their home form, though, is worth mentioning because, again, they are 4 goals down, but they have scored 10 of those 28 goals at home. So, is it 10? I was looking at Aston Villa for a friend of mine, sorry. Oh, God, I'm way off with that. Actually, it can't be 10, can it? Because they scored 7 in one game against Celtic. Sorry, Celtic fans. So what's that? 7, what's that? 10, 13, 14. Oh, yeah, right, yeah, sorry, yeah, because they've scored equal amounts of goals at home and away, yeah. So they've scored 14 at home. They're going to need another 4 at least just to bring the tie level, and they're going to have to try and prohibit Barca from scoring because obviously the way it works. And is it thankful? I miss the away goals. I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole here, but I understand the logic behind the revised format of this Champions League this year with that league system, because it did mean that every game, had a meaning, right? It was more meaningful. There was none of this gentleman's agreement. Well, we've both qualified, and there's no way that the third and fourth team can catch us. So let's shake hands like. Was it Germany and Austria one year in a World Cup who just agreed to play the last 15 minutes in a neutral spirit and just see the game out? None of that went out the window, right? Because as we all witnessed, it came down to the match day 8, and it was super exciting. Not only in the Champions League, mind you, but also in the Europa League. It was proper drama. It was tense. Again, it was meaningful. So I really like that. It's just a shame that the away goal rules were taken out because, again, it's a bit of an eccentric idea, but, asking teams to go away and score goals. Anyway, so they need 4 to at least draw this tie level. Dortmund's form at home played, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So played 6, drawn 2. Interesting, they've only lost 1, and that was the previous game against Barcelona when it was a narrow loss. In fact, that was a game where Dortmund came from behind twice, and then Barcelona scored late on. That was Ferran Torres with that goal. And then 4 wins at home, again, including an absolute thumping of Celtic 4-1. So home form Champions League this season is good. Let's take another look at that lineup because, again, I am slightly scatterbrained. Right, so Kerbal in goal. This is pretty much the same team as Dortmund in the De Klassiker. If you haven't watched that, by the way, we created a video which you can see here. We did a pre and a post-game analysis of De Klassiker, where, again, it's a game where Dortmund went 1-0 up. I don't want to keep covering old ground, but, Dortmund go 1 up. They fight back from 2-1 down. They bring it back to 2-2. Pascal Gross has a chance late on to win it 3-2. Maxi Bay goes off because that kid just keeps running and running and running. If it had stayed on, there's a chance that Dortmund could have snatched all 3 points in that game. Anyway, as it is, it's the same night. Actually, no, there's one change. I tell a lie, there's one change, right? Kerbal in goal, back 3, which is very German. I think we said yesterday that's very Italian too, but it's very, very quintessential of a German team to line up with 3 at the back. So Soule, who's it's like 6'4", 5 foot wide with that distinct blonde hair. Soule, Captain Emre Can, because he's the golden boy for Niko Kovac, and Valdemar Anton, there's your back 3. Julian Ryerson, personally, felt like he was the man of the match in that De Klassiker game, because, again, he was up and down on that right-hand side. He was tracking back. He was... In fact, actually, let's do what I said I would try not do too much. Fixtures results, De Klassiker. I'm just curious because you can, with the stats. I just thought he might have shown up here. Yeah, here you go. Oh no, it's just Fantasy League points. But if we click into him, and by the way, if there's anybody out there who is familiar with OBS, and you can enlighten me as to how to figure out making the right mouse button click work, so I can go back within a browser screen, that would be very much appreciated. We're all on this learning journey together, aren't we? Right, so that was the lineup for Saturday. Let's have a look at Ryerson. Here we go, look. So, Last game. Players in midfield. He covered a distance of 11.5 kilometres with 31 sprints. I'm calling it out just because, yeah, he was up and down. He was tracking. He was tracking his man in that game. Sané, right? So we had to keep an eye on Sané, and then Gnabry. All right, he did fall asleep for that wonderful Serge Gnabry slalomed goal, the go-ahead goal that put Munich ahead. Other than that, though, yeah, he was brilliant. He was up and down. He was putting crosses. In fact, let's really go down the rabbit hole, which is what we would do again if Julian Rice and. Yeah, he shouldn't really allow for dead air space on a stream. What are we trying to figure out? Five crosses. There you go. So there was a point for that. Well, that's what I was trying to figure out. Anyway, so yes, for me, he was man of the match. Up and down, tracking two dangerous left-sided players in Sané and then Gnabry, but in five crosses, he worked hard. So let's come back to what we were talking about here. Right, lineups: Koval back three, Rice, and we talked about Svensson, the young lad, the Swede. So we've got Norwegian and the Swede. That's left and right. It seems like they're going three again, or possibly actually. Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it a 3-5-2 or is it a 5-3-2? Either way, Pascal Gross is in there as a sort of double pivot role alongside Chuck Wemmeke, or Chuck as we call him. Brandt's in that middle as well. And then the interesting one, again, Chuck came on as a sub in the previous game, but if we look at the De Classica lineup, yeah, so it was Ozcan was playing as almost like an anchor role in front of that back three. Then it was Svensson, Ryerson, Brandt, Gross behind Bayer. It was playing off Girassi. So the only change then is Ozcan's out and Chuck Wemmeke's come in. That's as far as I can tell. And again, whether that breaks down as if you count the two wing backs as part of the back three, in which case it's a 5-3-2, or you could say it's a 3-5-2. Either way, that midfield is set up. The defence is set up better than it was in the previous game, which I think is the only tactical mistake that Kovac made in that first leg was trying to line up with the back four. Again, similar to the problems that Vincent Kompany's got at Munich, that he's trying to patch together a team with a growing injury list, along with the fact that Pascal Gross was suspended for that previous time. They really missed him. And there's no Felix and Cech in the starting lineup because he's, again, I mean, this guy here, Mesut Ozil, gets a lot of grief for, he's a Marmite or Vegemite player. He blows hot and cold. Daddy or chips, do you like him, do you not? He goes missing in games. It felt like Nemeka went missing in that first tie as well, which explains why he's out and Chuck Wemmeke is starting. So, yeah, there you go. So you kind of got that. You got a midfield three of Gross sat in the middle, again, more defensive-minded, being able to chase Harry, tackle, win the balls, and lay it off to someone like Chuck Wemmeke and Brandt. Again, yeah, Brandt gets a lot of shit as well. We like him, not only because he's linked with Arsenal on a perennial basis, but somewhere in there is an extremely skillful playmaker that could turn this game around. And Girassi was fabulous in De Classica. I mean, effectively, it's a shame he couldn't claim the assist because it came. The equaliser from Anton came from Erbig pulling off a reaction save, and he just smashes the ball in. But there was a great bit of like futsal skill going on. He flicks the ball twice, swivels, puts a volley in again, and produces the save, and they score the goal from it. So yeah, very different from that first game where I made that quip about the Dortmund 5 and Taffman. If you see this, then yes, We do need to work on that script. Just sounding like a prison drama. The Dortmund 5 escape from Barcelona. You know, we're drafting Kurt Russell as as Russell Brand and Michael Caine playing Emre Can, but he'd have to darken up a bit. And then it's interesting that Adeyemi's coming in for Maxi Bai, so that could imply that Maxi Bai is knackered because he, like I say, he did run his socks off. It's a classic colloquialism, isn't it, from football? Very English one, that. Ran his socks off. Don't know how that translates into German. Please let me know in the comments down below. So there you go, yeah. So that's the two lineups. Again, it's a 4-goal deficit. Barca on fire. They have scored... Actually, I think they won 1-0 right on the weekend against Leganes. Let's just quickly check that because I'm interested. Yeah, it was a now 1-0 win. So they've now scored 59 times in this calendar year. They're unbeaten in 24 consecutive games. And in the Champions League, I'll just have to quickly look at this. Bear with me, people. Your call is important to us. They've scored 36 times. And I can tell you how well I've done away. I just need a second. Sorry. Trying to make this magic happen. In the background. Barcelona away. Champions League. 15 goals in the Champions League. And in terms of their performances, Champions League away from home, they lost the first game to Monaco, which was a blip. Otherwise, 1, 2, 3... It's 4 straight wins. 4 straight wins in the Champions League. And in terms of goals, 6, 9... Actually, do it the other way around. 10, 14, 15. Yeah. 4 straight wins, 15 goals in the Champions League, and 4-0 up in this game. Wow. Okay, then. So, let's make a prediction for this. Let's come here, look, and this you can see on this screen. So again, maximising. Oh, it's a shame that Maxi Bai wasn't in because that would have been a nice segue. Maximising the skill that Julian Brandt has got inside himself. And actually, just slight side note, I was looking up previous Champions League games where Dortmund have overturned a first leg margin to win. So obviously last season was Atletico Madrid, but they lost 2-1 in that first leg, and then obviously they go on to win 5-4. So it was really only a 1-goal deficit. The other interesting one was when Jurgen Klopp was in charge of BVB back in the 2012-13 Champions League season where they play Malaga. So the first leg is 0-0 away in Spain. They come back to the Westfalen. They go 1-0 down. They pull it back to 1-0. They're 2-1 down. And then they score those 2 incredible late goals, which I was looking at this before, yeah. So they score in the 91st and the 94th minute to win that game 3-2 and go through to the final to meet their old enemy. So they have done it before. They have turned around deficits. Not to this scale though. This feels like, well, let alone the Dortmund 5 have to climb the north face of the EIGER. That's what this feels like. You know, it's going to be extremely tough. We think they'll at least score 3, but with that Barcelona goal, that means they'll lose 5-3 in aggregate. Which, you know, all things considered, looking at that Barcelona side and the raw attacking youthful prowess that they've got, the record that they're on, the amount of goals that they score, the freedom with which they play with, to go down 5-3 against that team, I don't think there's any shame in that. Of course they'll want to win it, right? Of course they'll want my prediction to be 5-1, 6-1. They're not scoring 6 at home, right? Actually, I don't know how many times they've done that previously this season. We can check. Let's have a look at that one. Let's go down that rabbit hole. Well, they did score 7 against Celtic, that we called out before. Did beat Union Berlin 6-0. Of course they did, yeah, because that was 4 assists from Pascal Gross, 4 goals from Girassi. So they have scored more than 5 at home twice this season. There's a lot of 4s as well in there. 4-2 against Heidenheim, 4-2 against Bochum, 4-0 against Freiburg in the home leg, 4-1 previously match day 28. That was an away tie though. Oh Christ, I didn't look at the away legs, did I? Sorry. Away from home, they've beaten Stuttgart 5-1. There's some 4-2s in there against Holstein Kiel. Yeah, okay. But we're going to stick by it again. And if Hansi Flick does win this game, by the way, this will be the 7th time in his professional career as a coach that he will have beaten Dortmund. He's already done that, obviously, 6 times before. Previously, but interesting, both managers used to manage Bayern Munich. So, yeah, there's a kind of, I guess, there's a mutual respect. But Kovac and his brother, is it Robert or Edin? One of the two. Again, if you know, you want to correct me, 50-50. I'm sure it's... I've got to check that now. Robert. There you go. Robert Kovac is his brother. I knew we'd get there in the end. Right. So, yeah, there you go. We've covered the lineups. We've talked about the form. We've given you some analysis. We've made a prediction. Feels like we can tap out on this one. Chat's pretty quiet, but that's okay because it's a pretty wet day. Most people are probably travelling to this game. There's probably lots of Spaniards that are taking that rain on the plane with them to Germany. There'll be a big crowd, though. I believe is it 7? There must be 68,000 at least. Westfalen, Dortmund. Yeah, 80,000, give or take. Let's be generous and say it's 5,000 Barcelona fans. So yeah, still 75,000. For the 14th largest supported club in the world. Wow. There you go. Right. We've done the teams. Done some form. We've looked at the goals. We've given you some analysis. Our predictions 3-1. I think we'll call it there. Yeah. Unless there's any other business. Any other business, Gonzo? Mesut? No? Okay. Right. It is a 8 p.m. kickoff UK or GMT, 9 o'clock kickoff CET, whatever that is in American money. We'll be back tomorrow and Wednesday to give you a reaction, unless it gets done this evening post game, like most slick content creators do. Otherwise, we're back again tomorrow morning anyway, because we're going to preview the second leg of Munich versus Inter. That's a Munich team that's 2-1 down. Travelling over to Italy, to the the San Siro. It's something Gianni Mezzala Stadium. Been there. Anyone else has been there, you'll understand that it is iconic with its 3 tiers. Again, it was upgraded for the Italian 90. What a tournament. My first World Cup. Yeah, an Italian 90. Kind of got into football mid to late 80s, but... that World Cup final with Roger Miller, David Platt's swivel last minute goal against Belgium, and that those Gaza tears in the semi-final. Again, credit to Germany, West Germany. Yeah, because unification didn't happen until technically the year after, and that's a whole different topic. Anyway, there's a video you can watch in the meantime, which is there's a live stream where we review all the games from match day 29. I'm going to chop that up and put a bow on it, make it a video in its own right. That will be available later today. Please like, subscribe, add your comments, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, but more importantly, like and subscribe here on YouTube at German Football Spotlight. I'll be the same for now. Take care, enjoy the game. Get your drinks, get your snacks. Come on, Dortmund.